All right, so welcome everybody. If you have never joined us before through Instagram Live, this is something that we were routinely doing this year for our weekly meditation sit at the Gravity Center. Each week, people from all over the city would come into the Gravity Center and we'd have a nice circle of between 10 and 20 people usually. And then we had, over the years, people from various parts of the country and around the world would let us know that they were also sitting with us at 4 o'clock Central Time when we would gather together here. And so this year we started live streaming through Instagram so that folks who were sitting with us outside of Omaha and outside of the Gravity Center could join us in some way and feel connected. And then last week we had to cancel our local sit here in honor of the social distancing that we're all now trying to observe. And so we quickly tried to figure out how can we still stay connected with everyone for our weekly sit who wants to join us, even though it's basically just Chris and Basil and me in the office at this time. Occasionally Mariah, who's working with us, will be present with us. She was with us last week. But otherwise, it's just us here in the Gravity Center, but we want to be present to you all. So last week we did the Instagram Live, and then this week we've been scrambling to figure out the Zoom platform, and we want to use this platform as a way to be even more present through various kinds of events and programs. And so this is day one of us experimenting with Zoom and experimenting with this new way of gathering in a more virtual kind of way. So we invite your feedback for today. As you experience this, we want to know how it is for you and how we can make it better. And so bear with us as we get acquainted with how to make this virtual connection the best and most meaningful experience for folks as they're connecting in with us like this. I wanted to let you know that there are some resources that have been gathered in response to COVID-19 and this global pandemic and the national emergency that we're all facing in the United States. And so if you go to gravitycenter.com to the Reflect page, that's our blog, and there are a few different blogs that have been posted there that you might find helpful reading. And one in particular you may have seen mentioned in the different social media channels. It's a call to solidarity that Chris wrote in response to the crisis and out of really concern and compassion for various friends of ours in the way that they were or have been immediately impacted by all of these sudden changes. And so that call to solidarity you'll find on the blog, and there's also a recording of it there. So it's written form, there's written form and there's a recording. And that call to solidarity was featured in the opening podcast episode for this new podcast that's just being released this week through the Center for Action and Contemplation, and it's called Enneagram Mapmakers. Enneagram Mapmakers. So Chris has worked on this podcast with Corey Pigg from the Center for Action and Contemplation, and it went live was released this week. And so you'll find the call to solidarity mentioned in that initial episode. And then since then, there have been 2 more episodes released, right, Chris?
An introduction episode and then a conversation with Father Richard Grohr.
Yeah, so it's out there wherever you find podcasts, wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Check it out, because even though it was recorded before the crisis, I think you'll find it to be really relevant content as you are trying to navigate the crisis through the lens of the Enneagram. And with that, Chris, why don't I turn it over to you? Do you have any other comments about that resource or anything else that is going on around here?
We are Basil's sending his love to the people. We are really going to try to provide some very practical, very relevant spiritual support for folks during some of these uncertain times of social distancing, social isolation. And then I realize more and more of our communities are kind of getting locked down with these shelter in place. And so thankfully, part of why Gravity exists is to support the flourishing of our collective spirituality. And I know that a lot of us are struggling to make sense of this. It's like our brains are changing in real time. And I think as we sort of fear even touching doorknobs, walking next to somebody at the market, I think we're going to have to find new ways of supporting who we are and supporting our spirituality. So if we can be of assistance or anything that we can do to offer that to you, we're glad to be available. Thankfully, we have a number of spiritual directors that you can connect with, and I'm gonna just keep dropping. I'm gonna just keep dropping little links here in the chat over here for this Zooming. So if you're looking for spiritual direction, reach out to us. We can connect you with someone who I think could maybe also help you make sense of some of this. And then if there's resources that you come across, please pass those along so that we can also share those with you all and share those with other folks in this network.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So if you're also new to Zoom, like Chris and I are fairly new to this, especially for hosting, but you will find a way to open the chat if it's not open yet. So if you go down to the bottom of your screen, you'll see a panel on the far left-hand side is your microphone, followed by the camera. And then you'll see participants, Q&A, polling, share, and then you'll see a little bubble that says chat. If you click on that, it should open up your chat screen. And there you can find the links that Chris has been posting. So let's get oriented for this webinar. Yeah, it's kind of wild. It's been a huge, big, rapid adaptation for us. I'm still watching various tutorials and learning the best way to use this. But as you might have seen in the ads that were put out, we wanted to allow from 4 to 4:30 to be for a virtual sit, which is what we normally do. And then at 4:30, we will transition into what we're calling a wisdom circle. And I'll tell you more about that at the end of this period of time. But we are at 4:12, and so we're going to have about 15 minutes for a sit. And what we realized was, not only is this a different platform, but it's a different time. And like Chris was saying, things are rapidly changing every day, and we're all just trying to keep up and stabilize. And so even if you are an experienced meditator, you may be finding it difficult to come into your practice. You may be experiencing tremendous stress to the nervous system, which is causing a great deal of challenge for you in your practice. And so today, unlike how our previous weekly sits were going, we are going to modify the sit into a guided sit. And so whether you're experienced or new, you should find this to be a welcome space for your practice. And so why don't you settle into your seat now, just in a mindful way. Take a few deep belly breaths, okay, as a way of transitioning now from getting here to being here. Settle into your seat, noticing the support of the seat beneath you, rooting your sitting bones into the seat, connecting with the earth beneath you and just noticing that sense of support. Notice being held in this time and space. You might make adjustments with the body, noticing any points of tension or constriction, and just give some attention there and do what's needed so that you can be 5 or 10% more relaxed, comfortable, and present. And now let's do some breath work together here as a support for the nervous system and just encouraging the mind to come into the present. And so with me in a moment, I'll invite you to inhale to the count of 4. We'll hold the breath at the top of that inhale, and then we'll exhale together to the count of 6, holding at the bottom of the exhale. So let's all inhale together here and exhale, just cleansing and preparing. And then we'll inhale now to the count of 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Inhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Exhale. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Inhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Exhale. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Inhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Exhale. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Inhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Exhale. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Inhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Exhale. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Inhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Exhale. 4, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Now just let the breath return to its normal rhythm here. And notice any changes in the way that you feel, in the activity of the mind, in the sensations in the body. Just check in here. See how you are. I'm going to offer a reading from a lovely book that I've been enjoying by John O'Donohue called To Bless the Space Between Us. And I'd like to read his blessing for the senses. Just let yourself listen as you grow more and more comfortable with being right here, right now. May the touch of your skin register the beauty of the otherness that surrounds you. May your listening be attuned to the deeper silence where sound is honed to bring distance home. May the fragrance of a breathing meadow refresh your heart and remind you you are a child of the earth. And when you partake of food and drink, may your taste quicken to the gift and sweetness that flows from the earth. May your inner eye see through the surfaces and glean the real presence of everything that meets you. May your soul beautify the desire of your eyes, that you might glimpse the infinity that hides in the simple sights that seem worn to your usual eyes. And I invite you to just sit in the silence now for 5 minutes. You'll know when 5 minutes are up because I'll offer you another reading. Whenever you notice your mind wandering, getting distracted, just gently bring yourself back to the breath or a symbol that you've chosen in your regular practice. Don't be bothered too much by moving away from the now. Just bring yourself back each time you notice you've drifted away. This is a blessing for equilibrium. So stay in that place of recollection that you're cultivating within as I offer you this reading. For equilibrium. Like the joy of the sea coming home to shore, may the relief of laughter rinse through your soul. As the wind loves to call things to dance, may your gravity be lightened by grace. Like the dignity of moonlight restoring the earth, may your thoughts incline with reverence and respect. As water takes whatever shape it is in, so free may you be about who you become. As silence smiles on the other side of what's said, may your sense of irony bring perspective. As time remains free of all that it frames, may your mind stay clear of all that it names. May your prayer of listening deepen enough to hear in the depths the laughter of God. Just continuing here in silence for the next 5 minutes. Staying in this place of repose and quiet, I'll offer you this final reading and we'll complete this sit with the sound of the sounding bowl 3 times. Listen now to this blessing for the interim time. When near the end of day, life has drained out of light and it is too soon for the mind of night to have darkened things. No place looks like itself, loss of outline makes everything look strangely in between, unsure of what has been or what might come. In this wan light, even trees seem groundless. In a while it will be night, but nothing. Nothing here seems to believe the relief of dark. You are in this time of the interim where everything seems withheld. The path you took to get here has washed out. The way forward is still concealed from you. The old is not old enough to have died away. The new is still too young to be born. You cannot lay claim to anything. In this place of dusk, your eyes are blurred and there is no mirror. Everyone else has lost sight of your heart, and you can see nowhere to put your trust. You know you have to make your own way through. As far as you can, hold your confidence. Do not allow your confusion to squander this call, which is loosening your roots in false ground, that you might come free from all you have outgrown. What is being transfigured here is your mind, and it is difficult and slow to become new. The more faithfully you can endure here, the more refined your heart will become for your arrival in the new dawn. So that concludes our meditation sit portion of our time together. And if you want to linger and hang out with me until the top of the hour, I'll be here, and we're going to transition now into what we're calling the wisdom circle portion of our hour together. And this wisdom circle idea really is about us meeting together as a community, cultivating wisdom from within our circumstances. This isn't about somehow me downloading wisdom to you, but rather us together cultivating a presence and a listening from which we can mine the wisdom within each of our lives and in this moment that we find ourselves in. And so I wanted to see if I could do this poll. Let's see. Okay, never have done this before, so here we go. I'm going to launch this poll, and it says that the attendees are now viewing the question, and I'm inviting you to respond on a level of 1 to 10, 1 being low and 10 being high. How would you rate your anxiety in the face of the impact of COVID-19? And this will help me to get a gauge of where we're at collectively here. So got 85% who have voted. Waiting on a few more here. %90 have voted. All right, so it looks like quite a few people are finding themselves around 6, 7, 8 in terms of the degree of anxiety that they're experiencing. only a few of you are experiencing very little anxiety. So I know for myself, last week was off the charts in terms of the anxiety that I was experiencing, with the sudden instability to what I had known in terms of our way of life and what I had come to expect, not only in my professional world, but in my day-to-day life in Omaha and in our society and that sort of thing. And so it was a very heightened time of trying to figure out how to adjust to this seemingly constantly changing new normal, and I think the unknown and not knowing what to expect and not knowing when things would get better or what was going on was just created a lot of instability and uncertainty. And so I certainly experienced quite a bit of anxiety, and I was also sensing not only like my own nervous system adjusting to what was happening around me, but this collective sense of us as an organism being, disrupted. There was this massive disruption, right? So we can experience it on a personal level, any kind of disruption in our life. This isn't the first time we've experienced a disruption, but it is likely the first time we've ever experienced a disruption to this degree, to this scale, collectively. And so not only are we contending with our own individual experience, but we're contending with the collective experience. And if if there's anything to demonstrate to us our interconnectedness, this virus has woken us up to that. And so we realize that we exist within a web of connection, and what's happening with you is impacting me. I can now really experience that. So last week, I think a lot of us experienced, from what I could tell in my interactions with people, just an overload of stress to the nervous system. And now, this week, some of us are still contending with that, and others are finding that that's calming down with circumstances getting somewhat more calm, and maybe not as rapidly shifting and changing. It's important, I mentioned this last week when some of us met together, that it's important that we understand, at least on a kind of an introductory elementary level, what's happening in our nervous system and with our brain. And so that reptilian part of our three-part brain is really designed to scan for safety and security. And even in an unconscious or subconscious way, there are these parts of our brain that are very active all the time, scanning for safety. And so that was happening, and is still happening to a large degree with a lot of us. There's a term called neuroception, which is how our neural circuits are doing that hard work of scanning the environment for safety. And so that part of us is a part of us to be honored, and to not be frustrated with, but to really hold with compassion and gratitude that there's a part of our system that is looking out for us in that way. The problem for us is when one part of the brain is overactive. What we really want to work with is trying to get all three parts of the brain working in harmony with one another. And meditation and contemplative practice is all about that, about really calming the part of the brain that is on high alert, going into fight, flight, freeze, which is completely understandable that so many of us experience that with the changing tides of the impact of COVID-19. And so understanding that, and then working with that through contemplative practice, spiritual practice, breath practice, body practice helps to begin to signal to that part of our brain, I'm safe, I'm okay. All this stuff can be shifting and changing around us. Our circumstances can be in upheaval, and we can still be okay. And that's really what we find through the depth of spiritual practice, this capacity to be okay regardless of circumstances. And so if you're new to spiritual practice, be patient with yourself. It's going to take time. And in a heightened state like we're in right now, we may not be able to enter into a non-conceptual meditation practice for a long period of time. It may be too much, there may be too much stress on our nervous system to allow us to enter into that calm place. And so we start with honoring the part of our brain that is on high alert, and we do practices to really soften that overactive response. And so there, the breath practice that we did at the beginning of our sit, just a simple practice where we're lengthening the exhale, and where we pause at the top of the inhale and pause at the bottom of the exhale. The exhale is longer than the inhale. That is all designed to communicate to the nervous system, we're okay, we're okay. And then anything that can help us get into our body, hopefully you're not in a location where the rules are so strict that you can't even go outside for a walk. But if you are able to get outside, it's crucial that we are connecting with nature, that we're getting our feet to the earth, that if possible, you go barefoot and just do some grounding, with your naked feet to the earth. There's a lot of studies showing the benefits of that kind of connection to the earth, like real scientific kind of connection in terms of the electrical charge that we're getting through that connection. But getting out into nature, walking, moving the body, if you can take up a yoga practice or continue a yoga practice, excellent kind of resource for calming the parts of us that are struggling right now. Lots of important things can be done to work with the anxiety that you're experiencing, like also using essential oils and diffusing those in your home, monitoring what you're eating and really turning up the mindful eating practices. Sugar and caffeine and alcohol contains a lot of sugar. All of that really clogs up the system and just enhances the stress that's already there. And so you might reach for those things as a comfort, as a reach to make yourself feel better, but it's going to backfire. So keep that in mind and reach instead for herbal teas and richly like foods that are rich in nutrients, like fresh vegetables and fresh fruits if possible, if you can get your hands on that. And so watching what you're eating and noticing the effects that what we're consuming in our body has on the stress that our system is under. I wonder if we could open it up to you all now for other coping mechanisms for dealing with the impact of COVID-19 and the anxiety that so many have experienced. I'm going to, let's see, I think maybe we'll just try this in the chat and see how that goes. So would you share with us, and then I wonder, can everyone see the chat? Can you let me know that? Yes, okay, great. So awesome, you are there. Oh, this is so good. Okay, so why don't some of you share with us here in the chat, what have you found to be helpful for coping with anxiety in these uncertain times? Routine. Love that. Playing some music, I love. Yes, music is so helpful. And I like that too, like getting into a routine. Chris and I found that really helpful. It was like after the first week of all the upheaval and just trying to stabilize, it was like, okay, this week we've got to establish a new routine. Yeah, fresh flowers. Love that. Stepping away from all screens. Thank you. Yes. And staying off Facebook or being conscious of what I allow to take my attention is so critical, because it's not just about what we're consuming in terms of our the food that we eat, but it's all the consumption that we're taking in. Our system can only handle so much. And so being really mindful about all consumption, we're really being called to that. Thank you, Michelle, for your vulnerability here. Michelle's saying that she's not doing so great with strategy. She's tried yoga for the first time, and she's been trying to be mindful of the sleep that she's getting and not staying up too late. Yeah, that's so important. I'm glad you mentioned sleep. Like, that's really crucial right now. The brain is in really hyper response mode, and so it's going to need perhaps even more sleep than usual. It's working really hard for us, so being mindful of that. And yeah, like, go easy on we just have to go easy on ourselves, right? Like, we're all doing the best we can to cope with this unpredictable, uncertain world that we're living in. And so listening to ourselves, like just taking a moment to, ask ourselves, what do we need right now? Like, what would help me feel comforted, supported, soothed? We are really being called to grow in so many ways, and to expand, and to do some hard work of adulting right now. So listening to what we need, we'll find the answers. We just have to pause and listen. It's wonderful to get out and do some yard work, Mary says. And Margaret's saying that she went to get a coffee and sat in the open hatch of her car and watched people come and go. And there was something very grounding about that, I take it, Margaret, that helped you to let the anxiety just kind of calm down. Am I hearing you right there? Long walks. Yeah, and connecting through social media in conscious ways, in ways that would be supportive to others. Oh, I like this. Elizabeth is sharing about the use of daytime rules when we have energy and agency, and then shifting to nighttime rules for transitioning and resting. This is so important, shifting to the resting and digesting state during the day, and noticing that in a daily fashion, in a weekly fashion, in a monthly and annual. Like, our society is not good at that. We have been in sort of overdrive mode with productivity and consumption, and this crisis is really calling us to create better rhythms, right, of work and rest. And so being mindful of that, considering how you can frame your day in such a way that you're honoring the hours for taking in information and being productive, and time to detach from information downloads, and detach from being active and connected and productive, and taking time to transition into states of rest and unwinding and resting. I think that's so critical for us right now. It's too easy to be online all hours of the day, and we need to practice some adult discipline with those rhythms. Oh, this is interesting. My kids are always wanting to play something. So just getting down on the ground on their level and playing with them, even if you have work to do. finding that after a few minutes, you're enjoying life and everything that felt burdening moments ago doesn't feel as heavy. Isn't that wonderful? Like, just look at the gifts that are right here in front of us in the context of our family, and these sudden changes that maybe now we have more time to be present to our kids. And maybe there's these incredible gifts that are coming forward in that connection with our children that can be so healing and so soothing for our own selves. So notice that. Notice what activities of presence and giving our attention to, notice what those activities do and how they impact us. Do they calm us and restore us and energize us and inspire us? Or do they create fear, anxiety, stress? Being really mindful of what we're taking in, what we're experiencing, evaluating it so that we can make better judgment calls and decisions about how we're going to spend our time. Really critical. Dancing in the kitchen, so good. Such a good body practice, so good. Yoga, being creative. These are all so great. I encourage you to scroll through them all. Noticing self-care and when you need more sleep than normal. These are so great. Yeah, child poses on the mat. For those of you who are familiar with yoga, a child's pose is excellent for calming the nervous system. Oh, now there's a wonderful idea. Joe says a friend set up a Zoom meeting dance party for 20 minutes each morning. So dancing in the kitchen with others, wouldn't that be fun? There's so many wonderful creative things that we can do to connect with others and to remind us that we're okay. It's this is such a time of helping us, like the invitation really in these days is to pause, to rest, to connect in healthy ways, and to really come into the present moment. And too often in life, we're living in the past or in the future. We're ruminating about the past or we're fretting about the future. And certainly with all the instability in society and all of that happening all around the world, we are struggling about the future. Like, we're really it's really hard to stay right here and right now. We're worried about what's going to be happening in the future. So notice those activities that stir up the anxiety and the fear, and notice that that's all about the future. And notice the activities that bring you back into the here and now. And fear and anxiety don't really live in the present. They are manifestations that come through the mind that is not present. And so anything that can help us come into the present moment will serve us well with contending with anxiety and fear. Being, really careful about how much of the news we're consuming. Being maybe, setting up those rules for when I will get the information and when I will not go there. I mean, it's just how much news do we need in a day, right? Deborah says, I'm trying to pay attention to what is underneath or missed in the news. It gave me great hope that the canals in Venice were being healed by the quiet, and the waters are clearing, and the fish and dolphins are returning. It spoke so loudly to me in metaphor for my life. Isn't that awesome? I mean, there's so many aspects of this crisis that are opening up great portals of healing and restoration for the planet. And how are we finding that kind of restoration? It's just, there are these gifts, right, that we can trend toward the anxiety and the concern, or we can orient to the now and notice the gift that we're being given to pause and to find restoration for our own soul. And Sarah says that often she knows what her body and mind need, but she struggles with the societal pressure in her mind to continue to press on. Yeah, I think we all feel that, right? Like, I was just having a conversation with one of my spiritual direction clients yesterday about this. It's like this massive, like, unheard of, unexperienced global invitation to pause has come upon us. And yet, how many of us are really entering into that? And how many of us are resisting it or getting stirred up, wanting to keep doing something that's most of which is out of our control? So notice, that struggle to let go and to be right here, right now, and see if we can make the most of the gift to pause, to slow down, to be, to tend, to really be with what is brewing in us personally and collectively. I just have this sense on a spiritual level. Sure, you sense this too. This kind of like labor pains that is happening. Like we're entering into a metaphoric laboring experience to bring forth new life in our personal lives and in our collective life on the planet. What would it be like to really tend to that discomfort, to be with what is painful and difficult, to say yes to I have to stop. I have to be with what is right now and what is coming, and to just cooperate with life as it is, rather than try and make life something that it's not or resist what it is. This is a time for really learning how to cultivate presence of mind and cooperation with life as it comes, as it's given. How can I be a part of what's happening? So we are running out of time here, and I wish I could get through all of these responses. Chris, before we close out, I want to invite Chris to come back on video and offer a few things. There he is.
There's Basil. Hey, buddy. We appreciate you all joining us, and we're trying to just figure out what's going to allow all of us to continue to find places to connect, what's going to allow all of us to find new ways of relating to each other and ourselves. We are literally in a new season, right? Just 3 or 4 days ago, it was vernal equinox. This is the first day of spring. And as the earth, our mother, is changing seasons, we are in an upheaval, in a sense. Our entire world is being turned upside down, and we're in a new season. And I really believe this, that we don't have to be the incarcerated inmates of these social distancing lockdowns, but we can be free, and we can be free to become the people that we've always been, the people that we know and remember we always were. And like Phileena has mentioned, and many of you have here, sleeping in and losing a sense of routine and kind of letting ourselves go is going to be a different kind of harmful, and it will create secondary crises for a lot of us. And so who we can become over these next several weeks, maybe even months, is going to allow for the collective of who we all can become together. And I think we can be better. This will require a kind of unconditional cooperation with the inevitable. And I know that's painful for us. And so this is where our mindfulness meditation and contemplative practices are are going to become so crucial. But we realize this, that a lot of us who maybe had not habitualized a mindfulness meditation or contemplative practice can't just plug one in now. Our neurological systems are in fight, flight, and freeze mode. And for some of us to drop into solitude, silence, or stillness will be overwhelming, will be jarring, will actually wind up some of our anxiety. And so like many of you have mentioned, I think there's ways to get back into our bodies. There's ways to connect with Earth. There's ways to, yes, appreciate what virtual community and these screens can provide, but also to find tangible places to be held and to touch things. And so if that's a book and just reading words off of a paper page, if that's actually cooking a healthy or fabulous meal for yourself, I think there's ways that you can support yourself. I think there's ways that you can learn to love yourself better. Because what we all need from every one of you is you caring for yourself. And this is going to be important. The places that we all go to be healed and healthy are closed now. Your yoga studios, your fitness centers, your therapist offices, your churches. And so we're going to have to find new ways of becoming wholer versions of ourselves. And so we're going to interact with some of you and try to figure out if this is something that we do more than just Wednesdays. Hopefully the next time we gather like this, I can help guide some of us through some Enneagram type specific loving kindness meditations that I've developed for my next book that comes out in May. And would love to sort of leak those a little sooner than later. And just continue to, like I said, and like Phileena has been saying here all along, try to offer very relevant, very practical ways of supporting, of nurturing and nourishing our spirituality for the collective good. So thank you for joining us. I'm going to turn this back over to Phileena, but it's great to see so many of you here gathered, and hopefully we'll continue to find spaces like this.
Chris, as we close, can you angle your camera so everyone can see sweet Basil? Oh, hi, baby. You listening to me?
He hears your voice through the walls. So he's looking for you.
Hi, sweetie. Basil, we love you. Yeah, we could learn a lot from our pets about how to be in the present and how to rest. So anyway, thanks for joining us. Hope to see you next time. We'll be here again next week, Wednesday, same time. And we'll try to get that Facebook Live thing activated too. So if you have any feedback for me, you should have my email address in the registration link. So send me some feedback and we'll try to keep improving how we connect with y'all here. All right, thanks so much. Take good care of yourself. Bye-bye.